Hey there, May 8th, 2024. Welcome to Deribit Live. I'm Shane Ogwood along with my partner, Richard Hodges. We're the Rogue Traders. And we've got some things to talk about today. We've got some interesting market action. Some might say it's been a little bit boring the last few days, and I would agree. But a lot of good things to talk about. Boring can be good when you're waiting for that theta decay. Yeah. But if you want to live life on the edge, you want violent moves. Although I've had enough 10% moves for a month. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we've had 6 months of violent moves in 4 days. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. A big contrast compared to where we were from the last Deribit Live. Quite interesting, and I'll get into that in just a second. And of course, we did change our time. Now we're at 2 o'clock Central Eastern European time, so we don't interfere with the U.S. Market open, which is an hour and a half away. So hopefully most of you caught that. So May 8th, interesting about May 8th. So May 8th was the day that I think was declared that World War II, or the Great Patriotic Wars, our friends in the East would call it, ended in Europe. But did you know that on this day, I think it was in 1942, the Enigma machine was captured in a U-boat.
Right.
That's interesting because it's all about cryptography, and of course we're trading crypto. So actually, what's your opinion? So if we had the same code the Germans are using during the war, the Enigma machine, how fast do you think you could crack that code now with computers?
Oh, probably in like half a second.
That's what I was thinking. I was going to say under a minute. It's amazing how fast. And they had teams of people working on this code. So it's
they basically invented the computer in order to do it. Yeah.
It's remarkable.
What was his name? Turing, Alan Turing.
Turing, that's right. Yeah. Turing.
Who was treated horribly after the war.
I don't know much about that, but I did hear some things that
he was homosexual, and that was unacceptable to the powers that be.
Is that why? I know he had a rough time of it, but I don't really know much about him other than his work on the cryptography. Anyways, so here we go. Let's get started. We got lots of people still rolling into the room. All right, Vladimir, Sandro, hey, from Germany, great to see you. Soren from Tokyo.
Wow.
Yes, Andre decided to influence the markets before the U.S. opens.
What have the markets done? What have they done? Oh, it's pushing back up again. Okay.
It's just kind of farting around couple $100 range.
That's nice because I'm short some 62k puts for next week, which I'd like. They're covering 62k calls, but so what I want is the market to go up $800 and stay still for 8 days.
Oh boy, we've got some comments coming in on Turing and the Enigma machine. I didn't know. It was an interesting day in history, but it's a little bit of a touchy subject, I guess. Oh well.
Yes, you did. They forced him to take essentially sex change drugs to dampen his enthusiasm for men. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, he killed himself out of shame. He was. He was the country or the empire's greatest hero, and
he's a genius.
And the father of modern computing, and was living proof, dying proof that no good turn goes unpunished. So
no pun intended, right?
Is to always be as selfish as you possibly can, because people will never thank you.
So let's move on.
Words of wisdom and morality by Richard.
Okay, let's move on. So the topic today is, and this is of course my humble opinion, is why Bitcoin is now ready to break to all-time highs. Of course, as soon as I do this topic, we get a bunch of weakness in the market, so it's normal. But I'm quite happy to discuss my theory on why I think we're going to start ratcheting up to new all-time highs. First, let's quickly just talk about the synth miner account, which Richard's going to dive into a little bit later. Still looking pretty good. We took a bit of a hit from that crazy up and down move, but our current BTC cash is down a little bit from last week, but still up quite a bit.
You've just reminded me. We were just discussing whether we should sell a call again on that account.
Yes.
And because it brought back the call yesterday, but of course we should, because we wrote those 60k calls that got in the money on the bounce, which is why 67. We're down on cash. What? No, we got whipsawed on the 60k calls. And that's why we're down in cash, and that's why we're writing the calls.
That's right.
Get that cash. We said we'd do it over 5 weeks and get them back.
Yes.
So absolutely, we have to sell those calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they went out maybe yesterday. They got bought back, those 67,000. But we'll get into that. Bitcoin equity down a little bit from last week. Hardly anything. Still up 23% Bitcoin mined from the start, and our cash is still up. Annualized return is 153%, so still quite good. Versus hodling when we bought in 10 weeks ago, hodlers would have been down 15%. So all pretty good, pretty happy there.
That's
Here's the charts.
Right? So the market's dropped 15%, and this strategy has not used any more than 25% margin, and B, increased its cash value, even though it's a long only strategy.
Yeah, and we did a little bit of I won't call it a boneheaded move, but we did a move that didn't work so well. But I think we'll easily recover from that. Well, we have a 5-week plan to do. It was 4 weeks left, so here we are. There's a chart looking at the Bitcoin return in Bitcoin, looking pretty good, and in US dollar return, also looking pretty damn good. Not much to say, not much to do there. We're just going to carry on steady Eddie, and I think that we're going to be quite happy with that. Now, let me just jump over to the charts, because I want to talk a little bit about this topic about why Bitcoin is ready to break all-time highs, in my opinion.
Is this why we've had the 5% dump? Because you wrote this.
Yes. it's like inevitably,
whatever Shane says.
Yes, the inverse Shane fund. So, a lot of times we're talking on our channels with our friends and colleagues and stuff, and let's say the market's moving down heavily. We want it to stop. Well, buy some puts or sell the risk reversal. And as soon as we do that, one of us has to be a sacrificial lamb. And this is my little contribution. But we can see what's happened here. We look at the silly chart. Some people ask me from time to time why it's a silly chart. Well, I don't do much. I'll put channels on there or just basic trend lines. I'm not using any other indicators. Occasionally I'll throw up the EMAs or something just to take a look at them. But for the most part, I keep it really, really simple. I think that's the best way to do it. I've got the unicorns up here for if we get up to those ranges, then extreme action needs to be taken, whether you're flat or not flat. So, last week we were down here. We're like, oh my gosh, the range broke. Technically this range broke. We're all screwed. The U.S. came out with their financial numbers. Wow. I mean, the S&P, like everybody, if you were short, you got hosed. You absolutely got hosed. If you're hodling, it was great, whatever.
I've actually been speaking to a bunch of allocators for the SMA stuff I do, and everyone's telling me that everyone got hosed in April. Nobody made any money. Yeah.
April? When we're just stuck in the channel.
Yes, April and the beginning of May. Yes, because everyone was super long because they all thought it was going to the moon.
Okay, yeah. That seems kind of, well, hindsight, whatever. Yeah. So hey, we went all the way almost to 66. That was pretty extreme from 57, 56 and a half, wherever it went down to. Obviously, we've drifted off. Not much has happened. Vols have come in a little bit. I don't know, it's probably 53, 54 right now, somewhere around there, maybe 55. And we're just sitting. It's threatening down. I don't really think it's going to come down. But why do I think this is going to go to all-time highs? Because we went back into the channel. That was just a whip. We're back in the channel. I think we're just going to ratchet, and keep going up. That doesn't mean there won't be periods of drawdowns. Of course, there will be. That's what I think is going to happen. Now that this Hong Kong ETF is starting to bring in some numbers, I think that's going to grow and grow and grow. And I know Richard has some data on this. He's going to share soon. I don't know. They busted it down here, and it didn't hold. Now, what's going to throw a monkey wrench or a spanner, as the English would say, into the gears is if this does drift back down to here, then do we have to ask ourselves, well, is this the new range? I don't know. Maybe it is. And that's okay. That's okay. But if it drifts down, then all bets are off. And that doesn't mean I'm not long-term bullish. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time of monkeying around. Whenever, maybe it's June, maybe it's September before we really start ramping up to all-time highs. But I think if this range holds, we're just going to keep ratcheting up and ratcheting up. I think there's just too much positive stuff on the horizon for it to come down. That's my personal opinion. Now, let me go to the poll because let me publish this right now. My question to you, and I'm going to say kudos to everyone in our audience, because last week when we were down here at the bottom, I asked you guys, I said, do you think we're going back up into the range or are we heading down south? I think it was like 68% or something of you said, no, we're going back in the range, and you were spot on right. So it proves they've got the smartest viewers in the world.
We should do the Deribit Live Viewers Fund.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Everybody send me some cash. And I promise I won't just retire on a beach somewhere.
No, but we'll, every week we take a poll, which direction the market's going to go, and we just do what the viewers say. And I mean, there's funds that measure the behavior of mice and make investments on that. And I reckon our guys are, got to be better than mice.
Probably they're more of a rat level. Rats are much smarter. Yes. Maybe a big furry squirrel. So anyways, the question for the poll today is, are we going to break up out of the range? Are we going to stay range bound or break down out of the range? This is by the end of May. And just let me know. And then at the end of the show, I'll publish those results. So I think that right now, let's take a look at the Synth Miner account, Richard, if you don't mind sharing that. And we'll just sort of talk about where we're at there.
Yeah.
I think we might want to sell some calls. Maybe we don't want to do it just yet. Maybe we want to wait until here. Let me stop sharing my screen just so it doesn't screw up anything you're doing.
Screen 2, share.
We might want to wait till after the US is opened up before we do that. But
yeah, I think. Well, the thing is,
vols might come off.
Vols are going to come off after 4 o'clock UK time, because that's when the US expiry is on CBOE or CME, right?
Yeah.
And
we do have the unemployment numbers coming out.
We've got UK interest rates coming out today, which is irrelevant. UK doesn't matter anymore. And then we've got some consumer sentiment bullshit coming out tomorrow.
No, the US unemployment number comes out today.
Really?
Yes. I think at 2:30.
No, it's not. It's not on the Deribit calendar. Okay.
Yeah, it's not on the Deribit calendar for some reason. Yeah. I'm not sure why.
I don't know. That news is already out, right? I mean, last week we had unemployment numbers were terrible, or employment numbers were terrible. Therefore, economy's bad. Therefore, they're going to drop rates, buy Bitcoin, and buy everything. Buy everything. Actually, everyone got hosed who was short, and everyone was short. And then, so what are they going to do now? Say, it's not as bad as we thought. Maybe they're going to say what interest rates up. Therefore, sell everything.
It could be. I just kind of want to wait till the numbers in, because if I sell if we can get a $1,000 or $2,000 pump, that'd be beautiful. Then we can sell the calls.
Why don't we put the order in now and $1,000 up rather
cheeky?
You know me. So look, so we're thinking of selling. I mean, we should try and get 10 bips a day out of it, right? So let's try and sell. So if we were to sell the 65k calls now for next week, which I think would be okay anyway. So let's try and sell the 66s, but for the price that for 80, and then we can adjust it down later, right?
I mean, okay. So you're thinking the 66.
So that's a 8% move. We'd have to be in trouble. We could always roll from that anyway.
Yeah.
And if we're rolling we're at 66 by the time next week comes around, then those two puts we've got are going to be worthless. We've got all that premium, and we can roll back down to puts, and we're all good again. And we don't have
You want to buy the cover for that now, and then wait to see if the.
No, I don't like buying cover up front because it costs me money.
Well, if the price pops, you'll have it for a bargain. But we're only a week away. It's pretty cheap. where are you thinking of buying the cover?
So I think 10% up, so we could buy the cover at 72, 74.
Yeah. And let's face it, covers just for margin. It's
exactly. It doesn't. So let's put this in at 80.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
And we can buy the cover now if you want to risk burning the money.
Well, I mean, it's we're talking about pennies right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
All right.
Maybe just put a bid in at 12 and see if it gets filled. And
at 72.
Yeah. It's 11 by 13.
I mean, we could do the 74. Oh, no, 74 is a bit far away. Okay. All right. 12. Bam. Bye. Filled.
Oh, yeah. One of our viewers is like, you know what? I'll take that.
Yeah.
Free money. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So.
All right.
Well, we'll try for 80, and if we can't get 80, we'll settle for 60. Right. Or we could even just sell the 65s instead of the 66s. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that now. It'll matter horribly when the market's at 68. But
so back to the topic where Bitcoin going to all-time highs.
And sorry, just to reiterate this, the reason that we're selling these calls at all is because we had a debt to pay because we sold calls to hedge the downside move, but also we are running 0.2 here of short call puts and 0.2 here of short puts and 0.1 here of short puts, and we should only be running maximum of 0.3 on this account. So we are 0.2 of a Bitcoin over. So rather than admit defeat and just take the risk off, we are selling calls to pull in premium against those.
It's funny, we decided to do this over 5 weeks. Thought, you know what, we'll give ourselves 5 weeks, we'll make all that back. And we were talking at the time, we were saying, you know what, we could do it right now and make it all back in 1 week by selling. I can't remember what we're going to do.
63,000 calls or something.
Yeah, we would have.
And we should have
come out.
It.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. But that's fine.
Anyway, back to your topic.
Yeah, well, actually, and I'll mention again too. So our ideal number is 0.3 because we want to keep our margin around 20%, or we're quite happy with that. So how do we get these extra things? Do we just go degen one day? Do we just go rogue trader one day? No, we didn't. Sometimes if you're forced to roll things, you're going to end up putting more risk on. So in this case, we're offsetting that risk with these short calls. So. Yes, the strategy is selling puts, but there's times we want to sell calls as well in order to offset some of that risk. Back to the strategy, or back to that long-term ratcheting up of Bitcoin. I think I commented on some private channels over the weekend with you, Richard, that I was just astonished at how many positive news articles came out one after another over the weekend as things started to rally. It's like, where did all these come from? Last week was doom and gloom. And it's just kind of funny. It's sort of, typical of the crypto industry. But I think you'd looked at, actually, do you have the info on CoinGlass?
Yeah.
That might be interesting to share with our viewers. So we're looking at inflows.
So ignore the top row because it's not complete yet, because it tends not to get completed until like at least 24 hours after the day. But the 7th, we had net outflows, oddly. But on the 3rd and the 6th, so last Friday and Monday, we had massive inflows. And interestingly, the 3rd was the day of the big spike up in S&P and BTC. And I don't know whether that was coordinated. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe they were, because I think that drop down and the pump up was all to do with the Bank of Japan and the carry trade and fears around that, and then the news and people were short, and it all coincided. But so I think this one is coincidence, but it does kind of show that when the CFAs want to get their skates on and sell these ETFs, the money flows in. That's like 15 times as much Bitcoin bought that day as is mined every day. And then this one here on the 6th on Monday was 10 times or 8 times what's mined every day came in. And then we've got the Hong Kong ETFs. They're now recording those on CoinGlass too. And the Hong Kong ETFs are small, but still they're buying a quarter of the mine supply every day.
And I think that's only going to increase. I think it's just going to gain momentum and gain momentum. And that's why I think that especially if this range holds, even if it doesn't hold, it's still going up, but it's just going to take longer.
I mean, at risk of offending anybody, I don't know a single Asian person who isn't a degen. So
they definitely take more risk in general. I would agree. They have a bit more of a gambling mentality, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. To that point, I saw an article this morning where I saw crypto ownership by percentage of population who own crypto, and I was actually quite surprised. The number one country in the world, the percentage of the population that owns crypto, is United Arab Emirates, where 30% of people own some crypto. But, okay, all right, maybe a surprise, maybe not a surprise. But number two was Vietnam. U.S. U.S., Iran, Philippines, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Ukraine, and Venezuela.
But I was working in Vietnam a few years ago, and I actually got invited to like a boys' night watching a movie, and we watched a Vietnamese movie, and it was literally about Bitcoin. It was like an action movie about people all trying to get their hands on Bitcoin.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's kind of remarkable. But when we look at the UAE, 30% of the people own it. Well, Vietnam is 21%, but then you get the US 15%, like double the amount of people in the UAE own it. Now, obviously, there's a population difference, but I just thought it was quite extraordinary. I wasn't expecting a lot of those. Iran, 13% of the people in Iran. Interesting. Anyways,
where else are you going to put your money, right? Are you going to put your money with religious nutters, or are you going to put it invest in the rest of the world?
Well, and that's another reason why I think when we talk about Asians generally having more propensity to have to gamble a bit more, depending where you're from too. Sometimes there's no choice, right? So you try to make big bets and get rich or live die trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that I found that was very, very interesting. And look, we're sitting here right now. We're talking about a little bit of weakness this morning. We popped down below 61. Now we're up above. It's kind of holding. Let's see what happens. US comes online pretty quick here. I still think this channel is going to hold. I really do. And I think we're just going to keep gradually going up. It's going to be interesting to track those ETF inflows during the next few months into the summer and into the autumn, because I think that by the autumn, maybe those Hong Kong ETFs are surpassing the US ones. Anyways, that's what I'm thinking. So let's pop over here. Let me just change this, our settings here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sharing my screen. Do you want to stop?
No, it's fine. You can leave it up, or we can leave a chart up, whatever you like.
Okay.
Let's go to the chat here. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm just going to read out some comments. Cora from Holland expects another month of consolidation before we see another leg up. And I tend to think that there's a pretty high chance of that happening too. I felt that this, once we went back up into the range wasn't going to break either way. Suddenly I felt we might go sideways. So then, the thing is, after we get through May, we're already into June. The time goes, sometimes I don't know, but we're starting to get into the summer trading sessions. And if volumes collapse, people are on holidays, maybe we're going to stay in this range this summer. I don't know. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but you never know. Why not? So I think that might be the case.
I think we'd normally expect some weakness historically. I mean, there isn't much history in Bitcoin trading, but generally July, August, September tend to be weaker than the other months of the year. Which is true of all markets, isn't it? People tend to stop worrying about money when the sun's shining.
Yeah. Question from Vladimir. No, that's about the Enigma machine.
No, he actually answered the question. He said that all the messages started with Heil Hitler, so of course it provided a perfect crib to begin the. And I also know about this that they also started every report with a weather report. So the first word of the next line was Wetter for weather. And so they had an excellent crib to get started with. Without that, it would have taken a lot longer.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's such a rookie mistake now, but I guess back then, in the beginning of cryptography, it wasn't so obvious. So, question from Sandro. I also have an actual question. Since a year, I'm working on systematic trading infrastructure and have put quite a few person weeks into this. Okay. I've had good looking back tests that didn't work in practice. And after paying painfully much money for order book data, I've had several very unpleasant. It's not going to work moments. Okay. Right now, at least my back tests show that I could have extracted 16 to 17%, or
I
think
so, yeah.
Okay, of profit a year during the last 4 years, halving each year. I just have some ideas to improve that, but how much profit do you think one should roughly be able to make by just selling Bitcoin call options with a 10K US dollar account and rolling them instead of hedging the futures because of German tax craziness? Okay, starting to wonder if it's going to be worth it. Well, that's a good question.
So we did some backtests on simple covered call strategy, and we found that if you just sell 40 delta calls every week against Bitcoin in dollars, on average, you'll make 10% a year, and that's with no hedging at all, and just slavishly writing and ignoring the vol and everything. Just doing $40 calls will make you writing any other covered call without doing nothing will lose you money.
So in that test, were you rolling the calls or just letting them go to expire?
Letting it expire and then writing a new one. That was just purely looking for the. We were looking to pick up the premium, vol premium. So at 40 delta, there was. Now it's scary as hell to write 40 delta calls on Bitcoin, right? Particularly in a bull market. But if you don't care about keeping the Bitcoin and you just care about the dollar value, that will make you 10% a year. So mind you, you'd make more money just by owning Bitcoin and selling futures against it, frankly. So it might just be that strategy is correctly priced in vol, but actually just picking up the carry embedded in those calls. How much money should you make? So more than that, you should make. I think if you write calls and continually roll them, you would want to limit your leverage. And in fact, the next question is about the leverage, and that's actually just to foreshadow Alex's question. The math behind the 0.3 max long exposure is that we don't like to sell more notional than 3 times our collateral, 3 times our net asset value. Mm-hmm. And that's just a number we've arrived at through trial and error and actually through backtest. And in my systematic trading that I do for hedge funds, that also comes through. We rarely go above 3 times notional in leverage. Occasionally 4 times if the vol's are really, really good. But how much should you make? It's a good question. In a bull market where everyone's optimistic and therefore paying lots of carry and the skew's high, but the market isn't going up super fast, then you will make a load of money. You'll like double or triple your money doing that kind of thing. In a bear market, you will, of course, well, if you're hedged into dollars, you'll make money. And if you're hedged into Bitcoin, you'll accumulate some more Bitcoins in the bear market, which is nice. But I would hesitate to give you an absolute figure. So I would think if you aim for what we're doing in the synth miner account, if you aim for say 50% a year as a lucky target, that's your I win scenario, and are happy to accept 20 to 30% so that you don't take too much risk, then that's a good mentality to go in with. You might end up making more, you might end up making less, but you shouldn't lose much or any over time, is my reasoned view about that.
And I'll just make one note too. So we run the synth miner account, but we're also going to be starting another strategy account. And in fact, we're going to do that in a live stream later today. And of course, if you want to join our live streams, check it out at Patreon, Rogue Trader Academy. And we're going to also share those strategy updates each week. We haven't quite decided what that strategy is going to be. We wanted to kind of get a few different strategies going and look back over the course of a year, say, okay, maybe there's a bull market in Bitcoin. What strategies fare the best? What if it goes sideways? What if we're up and down in craziness? Okay, it'd be interesting to really see those. And of course, if you want to chat with us about that or join us, you can always send us an email at hello@Rogue Trader Academy. But give us a bit more to chat about too in terms of market strategy and structure. So a quick question here, another one from Vladimir. If we don't care about the amount of Bitcoin, then why not use this strategy? Buy one Bitcoin, sell futures in the same amount, collecting the spread as a constant income by rolling it each period.
Well, yeah, congratulations. You've just discovered the carry trade.
Yeah. And I think that's what you talked about earlier.
It's called a basis trade. So you're actually picking up the funding basis by doing this. You can make it even easier. You can just buy the Bitcoin and sell perpetuals and just wait for the perpetual funding rate to go positive and just pick up that rate. And in bull markets, that rate gets really extreme, sometimes 100% per year.
Yeah, we've seen craziness. That move up that happened back in March, it was through the roof.
Now, I know Vladimir because he'll be thinking, how can I maximize this? Because he's Vladimir, right? And he'll be thinking, wait a minute. So what if I borrow money and buy 10 Bitcoins and sell 10 futures against them? And that's when I'll tell you, Vladimir, that this is all very well until the basis spread moves from 9% difference to 40% difference, i.e. 4x, and then you find that you are bust and beyond your margin limits. So yes, the basis trade is great, but you must be aware that the spread can increase, and that can actually, if you're leveraged, that can put you on margin call. So you need to know what you're doing. But if you're doing it unleveraged, buy one Bitcoin, sell one future, yeah, happy days. You're just making somewhere between. Well, at the moment, if I pull up the futures screen here, you can see it. The rate on the best rate here is 8.85, the December future. So just buy Bitcoin, sell the December future, and wait. And you'll make 8.8%. If you can go and borrow money in the money markets at 5.5% and do this 1,000 times over, you're rich.
And in March, when the market was running up, December was the best rate out there, and I think it was at 17%.
Yeah, and at the time, the funding rate on the perpetual was 40% per year. And that brings us to another thing, which is the reason that. So actually, to answer Alex, sorry, Alex, you asked about long exposure. I was talking about short exposure, but the same is true. No more than 3 times NAV in terms of a short notional, and the reason is that beyond that, you're going to have to start getting. If you sell more than 3x of calls and then the market starts moving up, you're going to have to start hedging aggressively with perpetuals or futures. And of course, the one time when you want to do that is when the market's moving up. And when the market's moving up, that's when the basis spread increases and the funding costs increase. And if you're 10 or 20x of short exposure and you're having to buy essentially 10 lots of perpetuals against 20 futures, against 20 calls, when you've only got one Bitcoin of collateral, and then the funding rate goes up to, say, 80% a year, then in 1 month you have wiped out your account just by holding your hedge, because you're going to pay so much funding on your perpetuals that you're going to get killed. And then you might think, oh yeah, but I'll swap my perpetuals for futures. Well, you'll do that, but you'll do that when the futures have a 20% basis spread. And then as soon as the pump finishes, those futures will collapse back down to 9%, and you're going to wipe out, again, your entire net worth on the row risk, the interest rate risk. So there's no easy answer, right? Particularly in crypto, you've got massive Vega risk and you've got massive interest rate risk, basis risk. And the only answer is Bitcoin is a 70 vol asset. You do not need to leverage it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I'm just taking a look here. I know the numbers have come out. I don't think they're that much off. So the unemployment numbers.
Okay, yeah, Bitcoin's sort of rallied a little bit, but nothing major.
Yeah, so probably this afternoon we'll sell some calls
I'm inclined to do it now.
Do you want to just do it right now? Let's do it right now. We're practically out of time. Why don't we just enter that order right now? While we're...
Should I just change the order to 65 rather than 80?
Yeah, of course. As soon as you do that, we will get a $2,000 rally. But
that's
fine. The issue goes.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
To be honest, we could do with it because we've got a lot of puts. So
yeah,
I'd be happy with the rally.
Yeah, and I think and Alex mentioned too, what's the max short limit for that account, and you addressed that. But we were lopsided, and
so we're already over our limit on this account. We're currently short 0.5. Bitcoin in puts, and we should be 0.3.
Yeah, Vladimir, that's right. Result is simple. Do not be over leveraged 100%. Over leverage is what will kill almost everybody 99% of the time.
Yeah.
So
trading, you can think about this as a homework for next week. Trading a high volatility asset with low leverage is safer than trading a low volatility asset with high leverage. Because sure as eggs are eggs, one day low volatility assets have vol spikes and they wipe everybody out.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we've entered that order. I can see we're sitting on the inside there. Great, wonderful. I think that's it. We're out of time for today. I've got a feeling that next week we're going to be in this channel. I'm kind of hoping we are, actually. That would, at least my theory, would pan out. But we'll see what happens. Oh, let me just publish the results of the poll first before I'm done. So by the end of May, 50% of you think we're going to be range bound. 40 say we're going to break down out of the range, and only 10% think we're going to go up. Again, I'm with you guys. I think we're going to be in the range. That's where my sentiment lies. I think there's also a chance we might be up at the top of the range too. Maybe we'll get up 67, 68. Who knows?
I think it's one of those markets where the slightest bit of good news is going to terrify the shorts, and the slightest bit of bad news is going to terrify the longs, right?
It seems like that. It's manic. Yeah, fantastic. Any last thoughts, Richard?
No. Unusually, I'm speechless.
Oh yeah. You know what? Hang on. Did I get the date right? You know what? I thought all day long, it was May 8th. And I said it was May 8th when I started this. But it's the 9th.
Yes.
I was sick for 2 days. I've lost a day. Like I've literally lost a day. I've gone through some kind of a Twilight Zone thing. So nobody mentioned in the chat, but I'm sure someone on YouTube is going to be like, what the hell? It's the wrong day.
Yeah, that guy's a douche. He's what's
he talking about? Anyways, hey, that's it for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. Lots of fun stuff. A great question today. Let's see what happens next week, and we will see you next Thursday.
Great. Thanks, guys.